Alright, we're back, guys. Now, I'm also going to be filming this, so if you're watching the video on YouTube, thanks for joining us. This is going to be the spoiler review of Captain America Civil War. This is the night after. Overall feelings before we start to break down elements of the film.
Well, my feelings are in my tweet, which I tweeted out at Cineworld earlier on today. I tweeted out that I cannot sleep and I need to watch this film again.
Ready?
Yeah, straight away.
So, Mo, your feelings. Yo, the night after, you still love it as much?
It's one of the best films I've seen at the cinema this year.
What other films have you seen this cinema?
I think there's only two others that I've seen.
What was I going to say? What else did you see at cinema?
There was so much hype, and you know when something is hyped to death, the end product sometimes fails to live up or is just short, but Disney just seemed to do nothing wrong with this film, like from start to end. The fact that we watched The Winter Soldier right before this, which this film leads so well from, it just... I kind of went in thinking this is going to be like a massive Avengers movie, but it was a Captain America story. It was Captain America at heart, and everything was just handled so well.
Let's get into the plot. Okay, so we start off in Serbia in 1991. Hydra revives Bucky, so we see him coming out of his stasis, which they've had since the Second World War. They found his body, and we see him going after this mysterious car. They don't explain what's going on in that scene.
Yeah, before even getting into that, the one thing that I did like at the very, very beginning was a consistent pattern that they stick with throughout the whole movie, which was actually in bold white letters.
Oh, the way they transition from one.
I love that. I think that was brilliant because sometimes
Very 70s.
Yeah, within the movie, but sometimes we get lost, which to where we are, and I don't think a lot of movies address this enough, and the way they did it, I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, it's very 70s little. I guess it kind of plays back to the whole spy thriller thing that Winter Soldier was taken from. It has that very visual style, the way they did that. But yeah, so we see Bucky on a mission, basically causing the car to crash, and the wiring says
Some
blue shit.
gel, protein, ocean.
And then we don't get much from it after that, and I'm thinking that was a bit of a weird opening scene for the movie. Okay, I'll go with it. But it turns out to be very, very important later on. So we go to present day. Steve Rogers, we get Black Widow, Falcon, and Scarlet Witch, and they're going after Crossbones in Lagos, Nigeria.
Now,
That's a cool scene.
It is. It's not the build-up of action. Well, the build-up before we got to the action was absolutely brilliant. It really was. The feeling that I got from this scene was almost as if this was a video game. There's that scene where you've got Rogers running on the rooftop, and you've got the bad guy Crossbones. He's in
coming back from Winter Soldier.
Yeah, exactly. He's in his truck, van, whatever it was, and just firing at him as it was moving forward.
That was like
and it was like
first person game.
Yeah, it really felt like that. But wow, all the way through, I was captivated.
What do you think of Crossbones' suit? He's like,
It kind of looked like it was just some sort of like leftover piece of crap that Tony Stark didn't use, that he kind of bolted together.
isn't that good though? That it feels real. It wasn't overly designed like he had a budget of millions.
You know what? That's a very good way of putting it. Because it is, but at the same time, it's really, really funny.
Yeah, it looks real. It looks like something he could put together. Not, Sometimes you look at these people's costumes and you think, how the hell do they create something like that?
It was like, the doors that they knocked out with the battering rams that they have. They're like, well, we'll get that and just stick it on his arm.
I like it when he punched open that door though, and you just see it fly. Like the angles, the way they shot this was so cool, man. All the shit kicks off because they're trying to steal this biological weapon. So Cap and his people, they're doing like spy shit. Scarlet Witch is there all undercover, doing the classic no-no of putting the finger on the ear that spies aren't supposed to do. I learned that from James Bond.
And then the other character within all of them, because we've seen all the other guys, and we've seen Vulcan, but his transformation with his suit,
Vulcan.
Yeah, was it? No, not Vulcan. It was Vulcan, right? Yeah, and all the defensive mechanisms that he had to stop bullets.
Using his wings as shields. That was cool. They really kind of expanded that. And they gave him, because in the comics, Vulcan's got a falcon, basically, that flies around with him. In this, they basically made his falcon a drone, which actually kind of made way more sense. And he could control it on his wrist, and that's pretty cool.
Giving it a name.
Yeah, nice little upgrade. That was a lot of fun. That was cool. But then all this shit kicks off. Yada yada yada. Crazy fight goes down between Cap and Crossbones, and then Crossbones reveals that he's got himself a suicide bomb, basically, on him, and he's gonna take Cap with him. But then Scarlet Witch contains it, which was cool, man. That looked painful. Then she raises him up, and then lets it disperse
Within the building.
next to a building.
Well, it actually went into the building, didn't it?
Yeah, well, he exploded next to it, but the explosion went in.
Well, it's great because another thing is when we're looking at the development of Scarlet Witch, you could see that she's trying to understand her powers, and it really feels like that, trying to control those abilities that she actually has. And if she could have directed it in a different direction, she probably would have.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, because this is something that she's just trying to get used to with, obviously, with this bomb going off, how difficult must have it been to control that situation. But it was really believable for me. It really was.
Yeah. Now, we're going to get into this, so you might as well just kind of get it out of the way, the elephant in the room. There's going to be plenty of comparisons to BVS. If you're a BVS loyalist, as I call it, the head cases that just want to tear and scream at everybody who didn't like it, just, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. But the comparisons are going to happen. They have to happen because there's too many similarities here.
And unfortunately, the comparisons are only going to go one way.
Yeah,
Mostly.
Sadly. So they deal with that. They go home. Oh, we see Tony Stark giving his speech to the MIT students. Where we see this young, de-aged Tony, which I thought was actually pretty well done, considering, because that rarely works.
Yeah, no.
De-aging actor.
Yeah, so you were talking about this on the way back.
Yeah, I mean, the CGI looked quite jarring. Like, you know that they've like messed with his face and done that. And obviously he did look like a young Robert Downey Jr., but there was just maybe the fact that they just did it so well, it just looked really eerie.
The actual scene itself was a really powerful scene, especially because of what happens a bit later on.
His last moment with his parents.
And you could see that it was really emotional, very powerful for Tony. And I like the way they actually brought that to life, and they did bring it to life the way they showed it as well. And I just felt this is the great thing about this movie is the connecting parts that carry on all the way to the very end.
All the callbacks.
It's done extremely good. So I loved that scene, I really did.
So then he takes off his glasses to show that it was this technology which uses memories and turns them into like a visual...
Augmented reality.
Yeah. And he's making his speech to MIT. So that happens, and then he goes out. There's a few other little shit, but we don't want to get too detailed into it. But he's confronted at the elevator by a mother who's just waiting there, obviously waiting for him. Who just slaps this photo of her son who was in, was it Sokovia?
Yeah.
Which, the events in Avengers Ultron, Age of Ultron. And basically, says, but they managed to achieve in that one little scene what they couldn't do with Batman v Superman. Basically, the whole thing of Superman having to confront the consequences and someone having to confront him about the damage that he did, and they couldn't do it. And they had that guy in the wheelchair who was supposed to be that guy, the guy who lost everything, and they couldn't do it with just her 2 minute scenes, just a little bit of dialogue. It was so heartfelt, and you see it in Tony, and it was just so much more effective.
You saw it in Tony, and you saw it in the mother as well. You could really feel at that point, and the performance she gave, and the look on Tony's face, to what she is now going through with the remains that she has left, the stuff that she has to deal with every single day because of the Avengers.
Yeah.
The
collateral damage of that.
And there's that one really powerful line that she utters, like, "Who is going to avenge my son?"
Yeah. That's good writing. These guys, Russo brothers.
And that is, I think, in itself, the key moment for the film. to get you asking, wait a minute, is this right? Because these are innocent lives that are being lost.
They do a legitimately good job of showing both sides of an argument and truly balancing it out so you could see both sides evenly.
I think what I really liked here is, like, you know, when you watch these films and you watch superheroes, you watch any generic action movie, there's always the collateral damage, you know, the buildings, the people, but that never, it always gets brushed out over. There's no consequences. Here it's like, your actions, you know, you will have to pay for them. You will have to, like, we will seek justice.
And they do it right. We're at the Avengers headquarters. And Thunderbolt Ross, coming back from Hulk, we haven't seen him for a long time. He basically kind of sits them down and tells them and informs them that the United Nations have compiled of whatever, couple of hundred.
I think it's like 117 countries have signed up.
Yeah, to the Sokovia Accords that they have to sign to say basically they need to be in check and work for these governments.
Well, taking the scene that we just the scene that was to do with Tony and obviously the mother, the conversation they had, again, straight away, you know that, well, the directors, the writers knew they had you at that point. So why not just carry it through perfectly by having the Avengers sitting down and watching the devastation on screen that they are responsible for? I was, you know what, from that moment with obviously Tony and the conversation I was having, that grabbed me. But equally, when I'm sitting down, because it felt like I'm sitting down there with them, listening to this frigging conversation, and again, what do you do here? Do you, like, with everything, I kind of go off on a tangent, so I can't articulate what I'm trying to say, but kind of, do you guys get what I'm trying to echo at?
The thing is that they hammered there is, like, the Avengers were responsible for all of that. They were only really responsible for Sokovia, you know, like an alien invasion force coming in. They were there to, like,
That's a leap with New York, man. I don't know how they really.
The stuff that happened in Washington, again, they saved millions of people from dying.
Yeah.
That wasn't them directly. That was Shield.
Yeah.
That was their own government.
Not
their
Hydra,
own.
really.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it was like their own agency had been compromised.
But then there was the other one, the other African one, where Hulk was jumping around.
Oh yeah. Ultron.
Pretty much.
But the thing is that although we say this, I think the general audience, let's say people within,
well, that's the whole point.
universe,
It's supposed to be the perspective of just the regular people, how they view.
Yeah.
As far as they're concerned,
You
the
know,
fact that they're involved in it
Yeah.
is good as responsible.
And you know what? On the surface of it, the Sokovia Accord it wasn't that bad of an option, because they're basically just saying you can't operate on foreign soil because you're American superheroes. This will actually give you legitimacy. This will bring you within the confines of the law. Obviously, you'll be held accountable.
But the problem is they can't just do what they want to do, though.
Yeah.
They can only do what's voted upon and whatever targets they get approved for. So that basically turns them into hired thugs for these various nations, which...
Yeah, I mean, you can see it from both sides.
Yeah.
sent to the Suicide Squad with tags on them.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's what it would be, isn't it?
It would be.
You do this and you have to do it. That's it.
Anyway.
It's control. Like, you know, no, none of us like control.
No. Except in the bedroom. So, we skip forward to Vienna and...
You're gonna miss the whole Peggy dies and then the funeral.
We can do if you feel it's...
Because then obviously you have the reveal of who Emily Van Camp's character is.
Well, everyone knew that
Did
she
we?
was... Yeah, you didn't,
I
because you
didn't
don't
know.
really slick hair. But
Did you know that?
Yeah, I knew that.
you didn't.
I knew that. Oh, come on, guys. It's
You guys know.
in the face.
I thought-
We knew that.
I always thought everyone knew that.
Oh, did you know that in The Winter Soldier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
You, from the moment they casted her and they said who it is, it was her name. So she was...
I don't even know what her character was.
Oh,
what the character's name.
The neighbour.
Well, she was just a neighbour, Sharon.
So, okay, so it was a big reveal to you then.
It was, yeah.
Well, that's this.
Because it was a reveal to Captain as well. Captain was like, whoa.
Well, you know, us people within the industry who would be reading comic books and understand this information, but from an outsider, most people wouldn't get it. Most people wouldn't quite understand it. So like the reveal when it hit you, Mo, how was that? Like
It's... Well, the
I
only
mean,
thing
well, it's not like a bombshell like thing, but it was like quite a nice like. it's a link back to Captain's whole life and the fact that
Yeah,
Peggy's
yeah,
gone,
yeah,
but they're still a part of her.
They made it less creepy though, because I believe, I could be wrong, you guys will let me know, but I believe that she was actually originally in the comic books the granddaughter instead of Thingy just being a. Well, did they kind of say that? Because you can interpret Aunt as being.
No, yeah, I think she's like a grandniece or something.
Yeah, I guess they did that to make that relationship between Captain America and her less creepy, because that is kind of gross when you think of if they kept it as a granddaughter that he was with the grand, and now he's hitting on the granddaughter.
Nah, did you find out? I don't see it like that.
Yeah, but you're gross anyway.
I don't see it like that. What's so wrong about that?
It would have been, but no, it's fine how they did it, but.
Well, if they did, could you imagine if they did something similar in Batman vs Superman? It would be really creepy.
Oh, can you imagine if there was like a sex scene between Cap and Sharon, and it's like, you remind me of Peggy, or
all of a sudden her face is like gone, and
wait a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Wait. Now that you brought that up, this is really interesting because I would have thought that that's one of the things that is attracting him to her.
Yeah.
So for him to, if he's having sex with her, like for him to like think about, yeah.
That's my grand. That would be so weird. That's fucked up, man.
Okay, I see the.
Imagine if I said to her, "Hey, can you put this uniform on?" It was a grandma.
But you're right. They could have really fucked that up.
And even for her to even think that this man, even though that's not where Cap went, he never actually had sex with Peggy. But imagine if she's thinking that this is the guy that used to bone my gran, and now I'm boning him. That's. You get it? It's weird that shit.
Yeah, but that's the early runners. What I just said a few minutes ago, that could have been really creepy, but the way they brought that to life was pretty good.
And I like two of them together.
And I think it's pretty much a given that Captain America is a virgin.
Yeah. And does it go straight into the
I think they
Vienna?
go into Vienna then, don't they?
So they're signing the document, and we get to meet T'Chaka, the king of Wakanda. And he's giving a speech saying that Wakanda needs to come out of the shadows and be part of this world because, the collateral damage that they suffered thanks to Scarlet Witch and that explosion. And right before or while he's in the middle of his speech, kaboom.
Even the slow motion scene.
Afterwards
when he's holding his dad.
Because
there's that conversation that he has with his son before that actually happens. That he's just telling him how proud he is, and I can't exactly remember word for word, but then to have that explosion and then for him to hold his dad's body, that was pretty moving in itself.
It was, man. And then we get to see that fuzzy CCTV footage which shows Bucky in what looks like a balaclava. So, this is it. We have to go after him, and that's kind of what starts that whole. It doesn't start it. There was already a bit of discourse there, but Bucky becomes the thing that really puts the wedge between Tony and Cap.
They've been looking for this guy for how many years now since the Winter Soldier?
Yeah, they all just descend on him in that one little marketplace.
A little bit of info from Berlin branch of CIA, and suddenly Cap's walking into this guy's flat.
But then that kind of kicks off a pretty damn cool action sequence.
Chase. Chasing.
The fight first, where Winter Soldier's fighting down those guys in the stairs,
trying not to kill anyone.
Yeah.
Literally, remember when Bucky throws someone over the edge and Cap grabs him.
But that scene was pretty damn cool, man. Yeah. He's just fighting all these guys, jumping down. That's when we really started to crank up the action. It was like, fuck.
Now, when we talk about action, that action scene itself, the first one and then this one, again, they just keep them building. Yeah. Each action scene just feels so fulfilling. Yeah. And again, it's, I hate doing this, but this is one of the criticisms that I had with Batman vs Superman. The scene where Batman was fighting with Superman just didn't really do anything for me. Although there was a few people saying, I think it's pretty good. But these two, I really, really enjoyed it. They have their little battle in between, and then they're surrounded by all the feds. And then they're obviously trying to get away.
Yeah, without killing someone. Without killing actually added a nice little fun twist to it all.
Yeah, they were worried about not killing anyone, but some of those punches and the way they were shoved through. You're talking about shattering spines.
Yes, no, I think the ones that really kind of got me is when Winter Soldier was putting guys' heads through walls. But I think the one in particular was when he got the battering ram and put it into one guy's face, and he went into him. So I'm thinking, even if he's not dead, he's never talking or walking or doing anything on his own ever again.
But see, that's another cool thing, that each one of these moves that we're seeing, we are like in our seats going, ow, ooh, fuck. You know what? It really did feel so immersive.
Yeah, shout out to, I forget their names, but they're the guys, the second unit directors, the guys behind John Wick. Because they collaborated on the action in this, and it shows, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And then from that, we go straight in. We're introduced when Buck jumps off the rooftop, and then there's Black Panther.
And that we get some cool moves from him. It's like, what did you guys think of Black Panther? That being your first.
That was a very, very cool way to introduce a new superhero into the universe.
Yeah, very much.
Black Panther was just a fucking badass, man. He that is the best way to put it, just this fucking badass. You know what? Like, everything about him, his suit, the way his claws came out, there's some of the moves that he was busting out. And then...
It's like a wiki computer game character. Like, if he was in Street Fighter, I'd be playing that game again.
No, you wouldn't.
Was it that fight where you actually see him, like, just claw into the side of the wall and
down the building?
Well, then from there, you're just thrown into this frigging crazy chase scene.
Yeah. When you forgot about that, and they're going through like the thingies, Black Panther's hooked onto the back of the car.
Yeah.
That Cap steals and Bucky's on the motorbike and what's his face flying up?
But the way Bucky, did you see that when how he got the motorbike?
Yeah.
Right.
It's in the trailer, so you've seen it, but it's
again,
cool.
just grab an innocent off the bike, chuck him.
Yeah. Oh shit! Yeah, just swinging the bike around.
Yeah,
that was fucking cool. That was cool. Yeah, no. Dude, the action alone is a reason to watch this.
Oh, that whole the chase sequence down the tunnel, just the camera angles that they were using as well. Some of them were very unusual, but it just added so much to the visual pleasure.
I was worried that they might get too into the whole shaky side of things, but I think they just got it right. They didn't go too far over.
Yeah, I didn't really come across, maybe a few, but nothing that I was like screaming or yelling about.
Yeah.
But you know, if they shaped it up, they would have fucking pissed me off, man.
Yeah, they kept it so you knew what was going on. So we kind of, from there, we go to Bucky being in captivity, he's being arrested. Because, you know, everybody else turns up and arrests everybody by this point. And then we get to meet, which I think we already did actually a little bit earlier, Helmut Zemo. Played by the dude from Inglourious Basterds, he was like a war hero Nazi character. Do you ever see Inglourious Basterds?
I've seen like half of it, I think.
I haven't. I can't recall from where he's from.
Motherfucker.
You're gonna do a zoom into your face at that point, Eddie.
Yeah. Tarantino, classic.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know the films you're talking about. I just can't remember his face.
Earlier on in the film, he acquires the book, which was established in the intro, which basically has these trigger words for Bucky in order to just
activate him.
Yeah, to activate him.
Bucky's affirmations.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, it is.
It's only a handful of words. I don't really know why you need a book in order to recite these words.
Well, probably he needed the book to know what the words were, and I think they're also in a foreign language.
Yeah, I think in Russian.
And there's probably some other stuff in the book as well.
Sokovian.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, okay, I'll give him that.
Well, it's even like, you know, you speak English. If someone gave you a whole bunch of French words to recite, you need a book.
You need a book, yeah. Okay, I'll get to that. So so he basically infiltrates the whole Avengers thing and starts to interrogate Bucky. And then he sets up this whole plan to take out the power.
Yeah.
Which shuts everybody down and gives him quiet time with Bucky. So he reads out the trigger words. And it all goes to shit, man. Bucky goes fighting his way out. Full on Winter Soldier mode.
I was kind of like worried at this point that this will then again turn into like another Winter Soldier movie where Cap's got to go and hunt Bucky down, but I think they played it just right at this point. Again, another spectacular action sequence with lots of casualties.
I love it. I like Winter Soldier when he's in Winter Soldier mode, though. I like it when he's got that Terminator thing going on.
Really? I actually like his human side.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I thought his human side was like such a like. I've had my life ripped away from me. Like all of these people, I'm just a pawn. All these people around me have been messing with me. They've been making me do things. I'm aware of all the things I've done, but I can't do anything to stop it. Now I'm the one who has to live with that guilt. When people look at me, I'm the one who's killed people and done all these terrible things. And then just when he thought he might get some help from his friends, he's back in it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but no, I like it when he's a badass, man.
Yeah, I think for him just to break out of that prison that he was in and then basically pounding his way throughout the building, that was pretty cool, man.
It was damn cool. But during that process, he gives Zemo information on where he's from, the facility. So Zemo finds out that there's 5 others of him, worse than him. And we actually get to see some of that training sequence. I think they show a little later on in the film. We're jumping around, but fuck it.
Well, so
the other super soldier, beating him up.
Yeah, that was the thing. It's like, wait a minute, these guys are beating him. Like he's already a friggin' badass. What the hell? And there's that line that they give, where he tells Cap a bit later on in the film, which is these guys could cripple a country within like an hour or a couple of hours or whatever it is.
Overnight.
Yeah. That's crazy. So basically, various things happen, but then we get to see the various assemblings of the different teams. And we get to see Scott Lang, played by Paul Rudd, Ant-Man, meeting Captain America for the first time. What I like is how they managed to get everybody's humour just right, because the thing with Joss Whedon is he has very much a Joss Whedon voice. And some people complain. I love Joss Whedon, I love Buffy and all those shows, but the criticism some people give him is that it's a similar criticism Tarantino gets, is that he makes all of his characters sound too similar. They all seem to have the same one voice. But these guys managed to balance this script out that each character had the humour that suits them particularly.
I suppose like these guys have had most of them have had individual movies where they've got to develop their character and their mannerisms.
Yeah. But does that always translate in the person writing the script?
Well, there'll be different people writing those original scripts. So basically, those characters are bringing some like their own persona and adding to that script and bringing it to life. So when you bring them into an ensemble movie like this, they've already created that and cultivated that character.
Yeah, but they're not doing their own dialogue, are they?
No, they're not. But like the way that Paul Rudd got so excited, you can imagine Paul Rudd being like that because he's been in many movies where he's acted just like that. If we're going to talk about like Paul Rudd's introduction there, we're also going to talk about how Tony takes a quick trip to New York.
To Queens, New York, yes. And we get to see
the fabulous Aunt May.
the
very young aunt.
I think it works, you know.
Yeah.
I like it. I like the...
there's no written rule that says Aunt May has to be very old.
Yeah, I like the... Yeah. And I like this, like... to be honest, this actually makes more sense, considering it's supposed to be his aunt.
Yeah, the same age as his mother.
Yeah, it actually kind of matches up a bit more than the original one. But I like the slight change in the dynamic of how Peter lives and where he lives in this sort of apartment building in New York. And so Peter Parker walks in, takes off his headphones and sees Tony Stark sitting on the couch. And Tony kind of winks, kind of makes him play along with what the excuse he gave to the mob.
This was a really crucial moment for the film, especially with all the hype that's been building when it comes down to Spider-Man entering the world of the Avengers.
A lot of pressure.
Right. And this was, I was thinking to myself, okay, I wasn't exactly sure what to expect, but just seeing the chemistry between all three of those characters was really engaging. Was friggin' really engaging. And then obviously when you had Tony and Peter Parker, when they go into the room and they had their little conversation.
That's a trusting on. Let some strange guy.
But that's Tony Stark.
And lock the door.
Yeah, some strange rich guy.
It's Tony Stark.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take your boy into the bedroom and
no, he's like, I'm gonna have a conversation with your boy because of the Grant and stuff like that.
Tony Stark, who created Ultron, who destroyed an entire city. That Tony Stark.
Yeah. But by this time, he's obviously charmed the aunt, hasn't he? So, but yeah, just showing. I think what the funniest, the most interesting part for me was I Well, I knew that later on, obviously, he gets the suit from Tony Stark.
Yeah.
But just to see what he was actually, Peter Parker was using.
Yeah, a onesie as he just Tony Stark just grabs it. I don't want onesie, and he just knocks the panel in the scene and he just hangs out. He was just, I loved the wit. It was just that's what I liked about this guy as Peter Parker. It was just fun. He had that humor and he had that awkwardness that
Tobey Maguire.
Tom Maguire had, but there was still the humor that Andrew Garfield had. So it was balanced out so nicely. I can't wait for this Spider-Man film. I was interested in it, but now I'm way more interested in it.
So you said earlier on when we did the other review that you felt that you preferred Maguire.
Well,
I know.
No. What I said was Maguire's had 3 movies, so
Right.
like to judge this guy on like 20 minutes worth of film footage is a bit difficult. You need an entire movie.
But you said he was your favourite.
Did you love
Well,
it?
he's my favourite, as in the Spider-Man that we've had. I preferred him over Andrew Garfield.
Okay, and you.
Yeah, I agreed with. Well, the thing is that let's be honest, man. He's right. We need to see a Spider-Man movie with this kid in it. And if he is the way that he was, if he transitions straight into the Homecoming,
Yeah.
then I think I'm going to be very, very excited, and I think this Peter Parker will go straight to the top for me.
How would you want Homecoming to start? Some people think that it could pick up where this film kind of leaves off. Would you like that for him to come home after getting his ass kicked? Or no, he didn't really get his ass kicked. He kicked a lot of ass in that airport.
This movie will be after it because obviously his start is going to
literally transition from there.
Yeah, well, you'll probably see
Days.
you'll probably see mention of the events from Civil War in there. It'll probably be a standalone movie. It'll be a Spider-Man film with his own kind of villain.
But I literally mean from the point that he comes home from that day or the day or a couple of days after. You know, Tony Stark is in Homecoming.
Yes,
Yeah. So is that going to be a callback in some way to that meeting?
I think it will work. I think it sounds actually really. When you brought it up, I didn't even think about that. But when you're actually addressing it, that he comes back after getting his ass kicked and then thinking to himself, "Okay, I've just been sent home. What happens now? What do I do now?" And then
admiring himself in his new suit in front of his mirror.
And Tony gets him to step up, and teaches him like what it is to be a hero.
Yeah, that could be it, man. What did you think of the suit?
Yeah, this was there was a lot of when we saw him in for the very first time in the trailer. Again, I was one of the people that I thought that the CGI it didn't feel complete, but watching this film, everything about Spider-Man
Looks really good.
Yeah.
What is the deal with this? Is it actually been established what this suit is? Is it CGI? Is it part CGI? Is it?
Absolutely no idea.
You can't tell. Like literally, it's. There are moments where you look at him and think, yeah, this is definitely CGI. But then there's other points where you think, oh, he actually looks like a physical thing. It's difficult.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that actually.
Yeah.
It's a question that I've been asking myself. Is it?
Good job. That's a good job with the effects guys if it is. That you just can't tell. So let's just get into it, man. Let's just fuck everything else. The airport fight scene. Or the play set, as I want to call it. Because that's what it felt like. I just wanted to see big hands come in and just move the characters around like action figures. Kind of like what fucking Giant Man did.
I think the only way to describe that scene has to be one of the most spectacular action sequences ever filmed.
In any action movie.
It's a long sequence, but it never once feels repetitive or boring.
Because everybody in it has their personalities. They're fighting in the way that suits them. And like you were saying about, when we were talking before, it was about, you were saying that Transformer fight scenes, they're long, they're big, but there's no personality to anyone in it. Everyone's just smash, smash, smash. Whereas this, it fits it and it changes and it has pace, has characters of its own.
But just the dialogue in it as well, like Spider-Man acting like a kid with his like one-liners, the banter between
Bucky
and Falcon, just fantastic. And just some of the set pieces. There's like lots and lots of small set pieces in this like big set piece.
Yeah, when I think about this action scene, it just felt like it's really bizarre for me because it's a long time that I've come across an action scene like this that not just throws a very serious situation, but also throws a very comedic approach to the whole thing as well, all in one. And at the same time, you're getting to see everyone's fighting style and who matches up with who, and not one person was overpowered by the other person until Ant-Man did his thing.
Stole the show. Basically, I was gonna say who's the one that kind of stood out the most, but it had to be
he stole the show, not just because of that, like obviously was like his moment, but from the beginning, you know, he's on Captain America's shield, he goes inside Tony's suit, he's on the Arrow.
When he hands the shield back to Captain America.
This belongs to you, Captain.
Just super.
So good.
The timing and everything else, it just flowed so well, and it goes to show that these guys have the time that they've spent with each other. They really are on par with each other's acting. It's almost as if it's a freaking treat. That's what it was for me. It was a treat to see this.
But kind of going back again to the whole, one of the reasons people feel like BVS left people a little cold. Not everybody. Some people loved it, but in terms of not really caring about the people in it, you think, well, it's only their first time seeing them. We're not, which isn't true for Superman, because we had the film before them. We still didn't give a shit about the guy. But look at Black Panther. This is our first time meeting him in the middle of an ensemble movie, but you cared. You felt for it, man. There was genuine. You felt for his cause and what he was trying to fight for. It made sense, and you gave it.
Every single one of those guys on there was a reason that they were on that team.
Yeah. I love the way they balanced it out with Scarlet Witch and Vision, because that's where it could have easily been too much on one side or the other.
It's great because it seems like, and it really feels like, as I mentioned this before, that she's just becoming stronger and stronger and more powerful, to the point of she could fucking tag with no problem the Vision.
Yeah, someone who's got a fucking Infinity Stone in his head.
Yeah, and
you
then
can go toe to toe with him.
And then what do you do with that character? How powerful does that character become?
I'm really into this character, man. Because not just the fact that I got the hots for Elizabeth Olsen, obviously, but as a character, she's really intriguing. And I want so much for her to have a crossover with Doctor Strange. Please do that shit, because they need to cross paths and do like Winter Soldier, where we had Cap and Black Widow. We need to have that with Strange and Scarlet Witch.
And just to put things into perspective, had this character been in Batman vs Superman and the same thing had happened, you'd see her spending half the movie moping and like being depressed.
And at some point she would rage out and destroy buildings would just explode.
But see, that's the other thing. It's like, we know that there's this untapped power that hasn't been used, right? But if that was in Batman vs Superman, Mo, you're right. She at the very beginning, or in the middle of the film, or by the end of it, they would have introduced, they would have highlighted the fact that this person is ultra powerful, like destroying the city, and all of that.
They're picking up skyscrapers and just, oh, dude, yeah, that was cool. But there was a bit that you liked at the end of that fight where Cap and Winter Soldier slip by everybody and get into the hangar because they're trying to get to a plane to fly out.
Yeah.
And they're kind of blocked by Scarlet.
So I'm thinking to myself, and there's so many clever things that this film does. You're thinking to yourself, okay, Scarlet's there, you got Cap, you got Bucky, Scarlet, Black Widow. And Captain have a really good relationship. What happens? They haven't fought each other. They haven't fought, like, you haven't seen them two fight each other in the airport itself, outside. But what happens at that point? And then for her to fire, I actually thought she's actually going to fire at Buck, or she's going to fire at Cap. And then what a shocker, man.
That Black Panther. You kind of resist it. Kind of going down to the knee and getting back up, and then she keeps shooting at him.
Well, I mean, she kind of got it, because she's like, she knows that Steve Rogers is never going to give up. He's going to do what he's going to do, what he thinks is right.
She don't want to kill him. She doesn't. Let's kind of parlay from this and really get into the Zemo character, the Baron Zemo. There's been a lot of criticism about him as a villain, that he falls into Marvel's typical paper-thin villain mold. that there's nothing to him. And he, even though he does have a small role in the film, because they don't let it be a distraction from the fact that it is Civil War. It's about Cap versus Iron Man and their respective teams. So the villain's only there to really kind of facilitate that action, those reasons. They don't let it be a distraction, but I still liked him as a villain, especially at the end. I felt it was heartfelt, that moment where he's just sitting there on the mountain.
I think until the end, he did actually seem quite paper thin.
Yeah, you can say that, definitely.
And I think there's also a whole, like, when you get the explanation to his backstory, he was just like a regular Joe with a wife and a kid in Sokovia.
Listening to the messages on the phone.
How does he go from that into this guy who suddenly knows everything about Hydra, can track down these soldiers, is managed to get everything in the right place?
He's military, isn't
he? Yeah, but you'd imagine like he's military, but Hydra you'd imagine is all like hidden.
He said though, because of from Winter Soldier,
all the stuff
they upload everything onto the net, and because it was part of his expertise in the military, he could decrypt, and he found out everything he needed.
Now, this really annoys me in the sense that this even being brought up as a topic. That how this is this bad guy, he should be whatever, it may be more powerful, he shouldn't be paper thin or whatever it may be, but this is a very different story. It's not a story as far as I'm concerned about having this really powerful bad guy. It's about having the internal conflicts and battles that these two teams actually have. And that in itself, how they deal with it. And you've got this guy, this regular Joe, which I really like the fact, his backstory and what happened to him and what he's actually doing. And just dropping marks here and there, or little minor bombs. Yeah. And no one can see it because everyone's so immersed in their own chaos.
Yeah, and it's about them. Anything more, if they concentrate on this guy any more, then it would have turned out to be friggin' Lex or Doomsday.
Well, actually, so this is like, I was actually just thinking the whole time when I was watching that movie, Lex had this like stupid plan of pitting Batman versus Superman and had no end game, and his whole thing was like, I'm going to unleash Doomsday now as my backup because I've lost, but I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with Doomsday afterwards, Exactly. Whereas this guy was going down the same path, but he thought it all out. And he even says it, like, there's a line, you didn't think I was going to unleash these soldiers. I am not a moron.
So much. Like, I liked it. Because, again, it needed that little tag at the end where he's just sitting there and that little bit of dialogue between him and Black Panther. If it didn't have that, then I wouldn't argue if people didn't like him. But having that bit of dialogue there, it made it. Because he delivers it so well, and just how he talked about how he's lost everything and the message that he listened to on his phone. It's like,
But you can, and the other thing is that I know you can sympathise with that character, and it does this with most of the characters in the film. You sympathise with them. You take a part of them away when you leave the frigging cinema, asking yourself the question: wait a minute, you know what? If my family was in,
we have to get to that, and we have to explain that part, the whole moment that it swung, especially for me.
Yeah.
For the most point, I was on Cap's side, even though Tony made his points. I couldn't argue with. But then once we get to the point where we find out that original car crash scene at the very beginning that the Winter Soldier caused was in fact the car that contained Tony's parents, his mother and his father, and it was Winter Soldier who assassinated them back in 1991.
Which was actually all foreshadowed and actually mentioned in the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, And then we get, and Tony, he's forced to watch the footage of that from, it has to be said, like you mentioned, a conveniently placed camera, but still, minor quibble. And just seeing Tony's face as he realised, because he was starting to soften, he realised that, maybe he was going too far and he made mistakes. So he was willing to go along with them, but then that moment we was just like, all clicked, like, fuck it all.
Well, I've got to say, I don't think sometimes we forget how good these actors are. And when we take Freddie Downey Jr.
Robert Downey
Jr. at that moment, but when he finds out, your heart just fucking sinks, man. You could see his emotions building up and thinking to himself, what the fuck?
That fight was brutal. It was brutal in a way that Batman v Superman just wasn't.
They did such a good job at this. That's it, man. You felt for it, like
And you actually like didn't actually at that point you sympathise with both sides.
Yeah, I was more Cap, but yeah, I didn't hate Iron Man or Tony as I expected I would going in.
And you would kind of hope he would understand that it wasn't Bucky again. Bucky has had his life ruined and been screwed with, but at the same time, you've just like this whole thing that you've been carrying around with you. Like you didn't actually get to say goodbye to your parents, and now you see the man who killed them.
Yeah, literally, you see their deaths getting his dad's face
brutal death
punched in by that bionic arm.
What a friggin' amazing! I know we've jumped quite a bit ahead, but what an amazing twist, though. You know,
that sequence though.
Yeah, I didn't see that friggin' coming.
No, I didn't.
You know, all the way through the build up, and this is again just the build up all the way through to the very end where they just drop that friggin' bombshell. You're like, oh my god.
And it's weird because, like, as much shit as I give Zack Snyder as a director in terms of storytelling, I've always liked the visual things that he could do, the things that he could achieve visually. And that scene, which didn't need to be in there, I always thought he didn't need to be there at the beginning of BVS with the mum and dad dying, which we've seen a million times. But, you know, he added his own flair to it. It looked beautiful, even though I didn't think it needed to be there. It looked beautiful. But this scene where you see Tony's mum and dad, it was so much more brutal and more...
It's like you're watching someone getting murdered, whereas you said like the sequence in Batman v Superman was beautiful.
Yeah, it was
someone's dying, but it looked beautiful.
It was beautiful, but this looked brutal. And people are going to say that BVS is more of an adult, darker movie, but that death scene, Tony's parents, is way darker than Clark's.
It's just like the face getting pounded in, and then this mum just getting strangled.
Yeah. You know, the thing is, right, is that when people talk about, wait a minute, Batman vs Superman is a more dark film, I actually found this more of a darker film than I did with Batman vs Superman.
I think dark is the wrong word. People use dark too much. It's about mature, it's about tone. It has more of a serious, mature tone. This does. Civil War.
That's absolutely. You're absolutely right.
But that's what BVS was aiming for, to be more mature, to have it's not a classic comic book movie. This is like real people with real stakes.
But they didn't have the stakes. It just fed up. I don't want to.
Well, I think maybe is that the difference, that BVS was treated as a superhero flick. I know I just said it wasn't a minute ago, whereas this, you could actually replace like all the superheroes
with
like just and they were both on like two different sides.
Yeah,
and you could have the exact same movie.
You could very much.
Yeah,
you could. They kind of continued definitely that whole spy thing, but cranked up the political aspect.
Those last comments from Tony was like, "That's my father's shield. You don't deserve it."
Oh my god, I forgot that line.
That bit I completely forgot.
Was that my father made that shield? You don't deserve it.
That's
my
goodness.
See, it's just so well written. It's just so well put together. You know, the way they deliver their lines it's just so sweet. It's perfect.
Just Tony looking just defeat. We haven't spoken on that fight though. That fight with just the three of them.
Well, what was good about that fight what was really good about it is that you got Winter Soldier and you got Captain America. They should be able to take down Iron Man, mediocrely. Well, just hear me out, but not mediocrely. But they should be able to take him down with not too much fuss, right?
Okay, go on.
Right, but because he's in such rage. Right, because he's so angry and so frustrated. Sorry, I've got to pause this.
Alright, so that's it, guys. Basically, that is the end. If you're listening to this on the podcast, this has been Talking at the Movies with Salem and Mo, myself, Eddie Reese, and Antonio. And if you're watching this on YouTube, this has been the first take and our spoiler review of Captain America: Civil War. Loved it. If you like the video, please subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Go on iTunes and give us 5 stars and rating, all of that shit. Anyway, get out of here, man. We gotta go. There, people.